Live. Everywhere. On netrootsradio.com. David Waldman. Kagro. In the morning. Now, here's David Waldman.
Hey, good morning, everybody. How you doing? It is Friday, April 18th. Good Friday morning to you. Ha, ha, ha. You thought I was going to forget again this year, didn't you? I did yesterday. I actually was walking around doing some, just running errands yesterday and thinking about the fact that Friday was coming in and saying, oh, yeah, hey, it's Good Friday. Didn't I last year forget or was I don't know, was I off the air or something, or I had to travel or something for Good Friday, or I just forgot? I think about this all year. The one day, the one Friday of the whole year where you can make that one joke. And there's not really a tradition of joking about Good Friday, I don't think, but we should start that. Why not? If you didn't get enough on April Fool's Day, you can always, throw one out on Good Friday. So, hey, all right, lots to catch up on. Many things happening. We'll never catch up on all of it. It's hard to even decide on what's the top priority of the day. And one of the side effects of having to, juggle so many stories is I guess we lose sight of the fact that I didn't put it in this morning's post, but it's true. We are operating once again, and it's probably happened 10 times since we acknowledged that it was being acknowledged less frequently, under the cloud of a mass shooting. Another campus shooting, and there have been a few in the last couple of days, but Florida State University experiencing the latest, and newspapers sort of discovering the phenomenon of kids who survived the Parkland High School, Marjorie Stone Douglas High School shooting years ago, and then graduating and going on to Florida State University only to be pinned down and in active shooter mode once again. And that's not the first time that that's even happened. I forget where we first began realizing that there were going to be kids who would survive a high school shooting and then go on to experience an active shooter in college as well. It's an American condition now. And Donald Trump, as with everything else, has his brain frozen in the 1980s. I believe his only comment that I've seen on it so far is, hey, it's, that's the way it happens. We have this problem in this country, but it's not the guns, it's the people. People, and he is literally stuck in 80s thinking about that one. As with so much else, I guess. The other top stories, I don't know. Where do we'll throw out a bunch of them. Senator Van Hollen, Chris Van Hollen of Maryland, made it to El Salvador the other day, was, as we noted yesterday, turned away from his attempt to visit the CICOT prison and to find Kilmar Abrego Garcia and, verify that he's okay or alive even at that point. And he was turned away even as multiple members of Congress, Republican members of Congress, were being admitted to the facility to take thumbs up in front of the prisoners' Abu Ghraib pictures and circulate them. And I believe there were 6 or so Republican members who actually made their way in there. So, there was some explaining to do, I guess. President Bukele, in true internet troll fashion, was just simply denying Democrats access to it. And I don't know whether he thought Van Hollen would go away or not, but he was quite persistent and basically planted himself there and said, listen, without proof that he's even alive, I can't leave. I mean, I came here with the hope of meeting with him, and that may or may not be possible, but honestly, you can't just turn me away and not even acknowledge whether or not the guy is alive. Well, I don't know what happened exactly inside the Salvadoran administration, and I don't know whether we'll ever find out, but at some point they realized, somehow the publicity game here goes better for us if we arrange for such a meeting. And they did, and they put a PR team onto the job. And pause for the tea here for just a second, because some big story is coming. I don't know if that's going to solve any problems. But anyway, as I mentioned, the PR team was on hand. They produced Kilmar Abrego Garcia. So he's alive. He looks okay. I mean, they dressed him up nice. They did, in fact, of course, remove him from the prison setting, and rather than have him standing around in the white boxer shorts that they give to everybody and sometimes nothing else, they gave him some civilian clothing. I don't know if it's his or what he was arrested in, or they just brought some clothing in. They put a hat on him, by the way, which was also of interest. People noted that was to hide his shaved head, but also it was a Kansas City Chiefs Super Bowl hat, which I gather was from some other year. And or unless it was one of those, no, I don't know about that. Sometimes, the way they get the Super Bowl champion gear onto the players' heads and backs with T-shirts and hats, while the broadcast is still on, is that they prepare, those championship gear things for both teams and bring out the ones for the winners and put them on it. And then the others are kindly, as it turns out, donated across Central and South America, where people, don't really give a crap who won the Super Bowl, for one thing. Although some of them may have watched it on TV. And I don't know. I don't know. They give it away, or they sell it cheap, or something. They don't sell it like as souvenirs or anything, but in thrift stores maybe or something. And basically, if you don't really care, you just need a cheap shirt or hat, you take what you can get. Actually, they're brilliant. They're collector's items because of the nature of them. Anyway, so it could have been one of those. That was Central America, after all. Anyway, they dressed him up. They put the Kansas City Chiefs hat on him. I don't think there's a gang associated with the Kansas City Chiefs Super Bowl victories, but if there is, we'll find out shortly. They should have been more careful about that, to put him in team gear. Everyone knows that that's an obvious gang sign, obviously a reference to the idiotic idea that wearing a Chicago Bulls hat is somehow indicative not only of gang membership, but of very specifically, as Tom Homan puts it, as membership in good standing with MS-13. They're now claiming that Kilmar was not only a member of MS-13, but a leader, a top guy. I mean, their lies get dumber each day. And at this point, I guess we have to assume they're lies, because they've been given every opportunity to prove any of this stuff or even hint at any of this stuff in court. They won't do it in court, where you can get in trouble very quickly for lying, but they'll do it at the White House press briefing room, where you can't apparently get in trouble for lying. Anyway, he's alive. He looked okay. That was good. The whole thing was staged. Obviously, they again cleaned him up. Probably they dressed him. Hid the shaved head. They sat him down. I don't know where that was. Like, is there a commissary of some kind for visitors at the prison? But they sat him down at like a restaurant style table and put a coffee cup and a glass of water in front of them and made it look like they were just sitting down for coffee. So I don't know, but apparently some indication that the Salvadoran PR people were buzzing about and placing things on the table to make it look a little bit more like a friendly civilian meeting. But at least he got it. And, Van Hollen has been very impressive on this. And I know he's also acknowledged very clearly to everybody, this is a long way to go. He's not free. He went back to the prison. They didn't get him out. And Van Hollen acknowledges that. But look, the mission was just to go down there and be the first one to demand. Some sense has to be imposed on this, right? You're defying the Supreme Court. You're defying lower courts. They don't care about that, apparently. But it's just as dangerous and stupid and disruptive to be doing that as to be ignoring the Supreme Court. And everybody pretends to be powerless. Even President Bukele acknowledges that this is not so much a foreign policy issue as a contracts issue. He views it that way, or at least when he thinks it will cause trouble for people online. As a dedicated internet troll, he's been interested in promoting that idea. But, the idea that nobody has any control of this. Bukele can't release him. Trump can't order him released. We're paying some kind of contract fee to, I guess, the government of El Salvador, but maybe also personally to President Bukele, who knows. But we can't control the destiny of these detainees, even though we've contracted for this this situation. President Great Deals has given us a situation where we pay El Salvador, and El Salvador can't help us in any way, shape, or form. That is a fantastic deal. Anyway, so kudos to Van Hollen, who, I guess, out there was the risk of if Bukele's a big enough internet troll, does he reason out, what if I actually just arrest Van Hollen? Now, he'll have diplomatic immunity normally, but who cares about normally? Because normally that would be enforced. The United States would say this, despite the fact that he's from an opposite political party as the president, we are offended as a nation, and will threaten the use of our military might if necessary in order to see him freed. But and any normal president of the opposite party would say as much if necessary. But Trump really is the kind of person you say, I don't know. He might say, I didn't tell him to go there. It's dangerous to travel to another, and challenge the regime in another country. I don't know. I wouldn't advise it. He could easily have shrugged this thing off. So I don't know. It would have been a dumb calculation. There wasn't much to be gained from it, but I don't know. Anyway, they wisely, I guess, opted not to go that direction. So now we'll see. I don't know whether Van Hollen is on his way back now, because I don't know that you're going to be able to just grab him and put him on a plane and take him back. Although, if the opportunity arises, you want to try it. I guess they'd probably try and give it a shot. That'd be an interesting thing, though. I imagine they'd have armed security on site and cause all sorts of problems and then really put the senator in danger as well. But it would be something if you just grabbed them and said, I'm taking him on the plane. No, you can't do that because remember that these guys keep insisting that we're not holding them under any authority of the Salvadoran nation. They haven't violated our laws. We're holding them as a contract with the United States. And we wouldn't be in violation of the contract necessarily if we, didn't secure this prisoner, I guess, because, who knows what the language of it is. Or you could say, Van Hollen caused the breach of the contract. It's not our problem. It's not our fault. We tried to stop him, but he beat us up. And I don't know. I'm just curious. We don't know. That's really highlights the problem. We just don't know the nature of this agreement, or if there even is one, which somewhere in pocket I parked someone's discussion from Blue Sky about the legality of this, the law and doctrine under which the Trump administration would ordinarily have been required to disclose to Congress the nature and text of this agreement. But he's not disclosing that. He's not disclosing the nature and text of the agreements with the law firms, et cetera, et cetera. Just one of many places in which he's ignoring the law. So let me also, I guess, turn back to the other top story, unfortunately, the cloud of the mass shooting. And, we don't want to spend a great deal of time promoting the murderer who perpetrated this thing. But in case you were wondering whether there was any relationship between the current political atmosphere and the shooting, yes, there is. And I guess he's been identified, and he's got an odd name, and it's Phoenix, I guess. Phoenix Ickner, is that right? Ikner. Identified in the post on Blue Sky from, regular old guy Texas Paul, although Texas Paul has 1, a big hat, 2, a goatee, and 3, 286,000 followers. So I'm not sure what's going on here. He's the host of Coffee with Texas Paul. Let's just have some coffee. The two of us can podcast at the same time. Well, I'm drinking tea at the moment. He probably won't go for that. He's from Texas. Tea! Well, anyway. But he has this posted, and there are, reports. They've identified the guy now, so I'm going to take his word for it for the moment, and we could read through one of the what we know so far pieces if we want to parse this. But Phoenix Ickner pictured here wearing, of course, his red MAGA hat and looking rather pissed off in this picture with his arms crossed, and I don't know why he's pissed off, but, he's got one of those hats, so it's just sort of automatic. And he's described here as the MAGA white supremacist Florida state murderer kicked out of his college political club for quoting MAGA anti-immigrant and anti-POC rhetoric. You can always identify them by the hats. Well, you can always tell who a hat owner is. Anyway, by their hats. I'd be cautious about trying to identify people just based on their hats, but if that precedent exists and we're forced to live with it, then in the next free American administration, if there ever is one, I'll be collecting pictures of people wearing a certain kind of hat that indicates gang membership, in my view, and therefore terrorism. And I guess we'll be visiting consequences upon you. Just, it's not my rules. I didn't even like these rules, but what can I do? I don't make them. I'm a rule follower. All right. So I guess I can save that picture for you and send it around. We'll see what we know from NBC News late last night and early this morning, circulating the FSU shooting, what we know after 2 were killed on the Tallahassee campus. Might as well comb through what the responsible-ish major news networks are willing to say about this thing. Police identified the suspect as the 20-year-old son of a sheriff's deputy and a possible FSU student. Not even sure if he is that. Why can't Dodgy break into their database and find out? I don't know. Rebecca Cohen reports this for NBC News. Just to get on the record here, two killed, several others wounded. Police identified this suspect as Phoenix Ickner, all of 20 years old, son of a sheriff's deputy and possible FSU student. And they give us the rundown. Here's what we know about the shooting, the suspect, the victims, and how it unfolded. When did it happen? Do you need to know? Yes, I mean yesterday, but okay. Opened fire near the student union at 11:50 a.m. We were off the air. We didn't know about it at the time. By the way, arrived in an orange Hummer, which is, a little flashier than you might want to try to pull something like this off undercover, but obviously an attention seeker. FSU Police Chief Jason Trumboer said he shot multiple people before officers were able to engage, neutralize, and apprehend him. Discussion of the victims here. 2 people killed, 6 others injured, 5 being treated for gunshot wounds in hospitals. Okay. So 6 injured, 5 of those 6 in the hospital with gunshot wounds, and an unknown 6th injury that may or... All right, you get the idea. We don't know much, I guess, but we know about the suspect. Leon County Sheriff Walt McNeil identified the suspect Thursday as Phoenix Ickner, 20. He's the son of a sheriff's deputy. I don't know whether Leon County or not. Is believed to be a student at FSU. A member of the Leon County Sheriff's Office Youth Advisory Council. It's a good thing that he's advising them, which made it unsurprising that he had access to weapons, McNeil said. Really? That's interesting. I guess that's... I would have said he's from Florida, which makes it unsurprising that he had access to weapons. But I wonder what the Leon County Sheriff's Office Youth Advisory Council actually is. It sounds like not a advisory council at all, but rather a benign sounding name for a sheriff's deputy ROTC program of sorts. Junior deputies. And you get to do cool tactical stuff and maybe even fire some guns. And then when we find out you're grown up enough but irresponsible enough and don't really care about the law and just want to brutalize your neighbors, you join the force, I guess. I don't know. Mackenzie Heeter, Heeter, a junior at FSU who witnessed the shooting, described him as a, quote, normal college dude. Now, I would invite you to take a look at this picture and decide. I guess normal college dude. Like if you saw that guy, though, you'd say, well, yeah, he's a normal college bro. I've certainly seen people that look like him. Why so sullen, I might ask. But then also the MAGA hat, the arms crossed, the sort of the aggressive stance, coupled with, oh, yeah, he murdered a couple of people yesterday. Well, okay. You didn't know that at the time. He looked like a normal college dude, I guess. But again, the aggression and the MAGA hat, and I don't know whether he was wearing that or not. And of course, jumping out of an orange Hummer too. It's not that normal as college dudes go. But, I won't fault Heater for this one. Let's see. The shooter was hospitalized with unspecified injuries. Amazingly, he survived once again. A classmate identified here, Reed Siebold, said they were in a political discussion group together when they attended Tallahassee State College. Siebold, the group's president, said he had to ask Ickner not to return to the club because of his white supremacist views. Well, that's less than normal as college dudes go, although they do have them all over many college campuses. What kind of gun? Are you interested? Police said shooter had a shotgun with him. Couldn't confirm whether it was used. And also had, I guess the shooting weapon here was a gun that belonged to the suspect's mother, found at the scene, a former service weapon which he had purchased and owned, authorities said. So I guess one of the perks of the jobs of working as a sheriff's deputy down in Florida is you can buy former service weapons on the cheap and give them to your wife so they can be stolen by your kids and used in school shootings. But they also had so it's not surprising. Something, Youth Advisory Council, having access to former service weapons. Is there a motive? Not yet identified. And who knows? When it comes to this sort of thing, of course, the Republicans in general and the administration in particular, and the Florida administration, because it's pretty MAGA-ish too, will have a great deal of interest in pretending they don't know the motive, even if he left behind a manifesto explaining his motive. Well, can't rely on that. It could have been written by AI, All right. So, all right, that's where we are. And I guess if you see the name floating around, I don't love to spend time identifying the shooters, but now people will be making offhand references to his name, and you'll know, oh yeah, okay, now I know what they're talking about. All right. Let's see. Many other things to grab and latch onto. It is, we got a couple of minutes before our first break. Let me throw this in because it's illustrated with the picture of Senator Van Hollen sitting down with Kilmar, and I think it's always worth taking a look at what Chris Geidner has to say about this situation and any number of other ones. How come every time I do this from Pocket, it won't let me actually access the thing? But all right, well, I don't think the stuff is firewalled. That's why I'm so confused about this. But at any rate, we'll take a look. A little before 3 p.m., this is not so much, again, about the visit as it is about the legal situation. The pushback against Trump's lawlessness is real, says his headline, and making a difference. So, good. And a great illustration of it is this meeting that took place. A little before 3 p.m. Thursday, Judge J. Harvey Wilkinson, an 80-year-old Reagan appointee, much discussed yesterday for a strident and searing opinion, although, strongly worded letters, essentially, in the view of the Trump administration. Wilkinson explained for a unanimous 3-judge panel of the U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals for the Fourth Circuit how deeply, alarmingly wrong the Trump administration is with its actions regarding Kilmar Abrego Garcia. And I know, because we're short on time, I'll just point this out. One, we have the 9-0 ruling from the Supreme Court about the necessity for courtroom due process even in the Alien Enemies Act context. The insistence from the White House, Stephen Miller and others, that in fact it was 9-0 in the other direction somehow. And warning this morning, not intended to rhyme, but this would be a travesty on Good Friday, wouldn't it? Well, why are they so anti-Christian? Anyway, they've got a plane load, once again, it is alleged, of Venezuelans who they must be insisting are, in fact, very dangerous top leaders in international crime gangs, but may or may not have any criminal record whatsoever, and almost certainly aren't members of these gangs if they don't have criminal records at all, but all ready to depart from Texas on another flight to El Salvador in direct contravention of orders from various courts, all the way up to the Supreme Court, that this can't stand. They're ready to go again on Good Friday, which is rather amazing. Anyway, so Wilkinson offended on behalf of all the courts. It is difficult in some cases, he wrote, to get to the very heart of the matter, but in this case it's not hard at all. The government is asserting a right to stash away residents of this country, and in the future perhaps even citizens, full citizens of this country, in foreign prisons, without the semblance of due process that is the foundation of our constitutional order. Further, it claims, in essence, that because it has rid itself of custody, that there is nothing that can be done. Wilkinson wrote, this should be shocking not only to judges, but to the intuitive sense of liberty that Americans far removed from courthouses still hold dear. If you watch any cop shows, you know that's not supposed to happen. And that's how we should be appealing to it. You know how things are supposed to go. We won't use words like police procedural and explaining it to you. You watch cop shows, you know you got rights. You know you get to go to a judge. Why is that not happening? If due process is an empty phrase for you, find another one. But what happened to getting your day in court? 6 hours later, of course, Senator Chris Van Hollen of Maryland, who went to El Salvador personally to see what was going on here, posted a picture of him talking with Abrego Garcia in person. I said my main goal of this trip was to meet with Kilmar. Tonight I had that chance, Van Hollen wrote. I have called his wife Jennifer to pass along his message of love. I look forward to providing a full update upon my return. But that accompanied with the photo, that's kind of all the news there was on that front, but it was good news. It is nowhere near the end. We do not yet even know how it will end, and there will be many more disturbing developments before it does. But Thursday was a day for seeing why standing up matters and can make a difference. I'll pause here. We'll read the rest of this thing because Chris Geidner, always important to read. And, of course, this weekend, not just all about Easter, but another round of those nationwide protests planned for Saturday. Good timing. Keep it up.
Hi, I'm Scott Anderson, the guy that writes the daily summary for this show, Kagro in the Morning. Thank you to everyone that supports this show. Many of you send donations through PayPal, Patreon, Square Cash, Radio Public, and so on. Some of you write your own essays and send them in, or read articles with your own commentary. We appreciate it. Now, some of you are listening to this and thinking, I'd like to help, but isn't there something I could do that wouldn't require money or effort? Why, yes, there is. You can just like us. On Daily Kos, they call it the recommend button. YouTube has a thumbs up. There are hearts and likes and love buttons. Tap our love button. Tap our love button every day. Share our shows and summaries on Facebook and Twitter, YouTube and iTunes, Stitcher and Amazon. Most of these places allow you to write a review, so a sentence or two would be great. Recommend us to social media, or tell your friends to listen to the show. You aren't just helping us, you're helping them find their new favorite thing to listen to. You could change the world. So thank you in advance from me and everybody else in the world.
All right, welcome back now to the Kagro in the Morning Show here on Netroots Radio. Let's continue reading from Chris Geidner's Law Dork entry, but taking special note of the widely circulated and widely read opinion from Reagan appointee Judge Wilkinson here, who, Chris is digesting it. As we said, he points out it's nowhere near the end of this process. We don't know what the end is going to be. There will be many more disturbing developments along the way before it does. But yesterday, Thursday, was a day for seeing why standing up matters and can make a difference. The Trump administration is so clearly proceeding so dangerously and lawlessly in this case, with its implications for Abrego Garcia, all people in America, and the rule of law at large, I would add. Could easily have snuck that in there. And in other areas across the government, and those are just examples from Wednesday and Thursday. He is providing with 3 different links here, including, RFK Jr.'s crazy comments about children and autism, FDA food infection plans. Food inspection plans, although really food infection plans would be probably a good term for it. I like that, though. That's a good one. What do they call those? Are those spoonerisms? Spood infection. Wow, I kind of like that one. Anyway, the last one being, and this is a good, thank you, Chris, for doing this. This was unnecessary to the story, but just a great way to sneak in mention of everything that has happened that probably wouldn't make the air. Also, the gutting of the CFPB. I think, what did they say? Something on the order of, I don't know, 1,500 out of 1,700 employees allegedly fired. They'll be suing, of course, and probably win at least a lawsuit about the methodology behind their supposed firing, whether they'll actually be rehired or not. We're still watching that play out in the courts. But anyway, another good example and another important issue. Oh, you know what? I mentioned the FDA food safety inspection plans, basically the dismantling of food safety inspections across the board. I did put away in pocket, and I don't think we'll actually find the time to read the story about it, but I wanted to put away somewhere in here, is news from NBC. I'll just give you, and I think maybe ProPublica might have helped with this one. The headline is all you'll really need to, you'll have either have heard the news or will hear it shortly. But the news is about news that you didn't hear before, essentially. A deadly E. coli outbreak has hit 15 different states. You heard about that, right? No, probably not. I mean, you might have. You're a well-read person, I'm sure. But more worrisome still if you are a well-read person and haven't heard it or said, I thought I heard something about that. But normally that would be huge headlines. Like, for instance, what was it that has been spreading the E. coli infection? Normally we find out, it's in spinach, it's in, whatever. They name your product. I'm sorry, the Spinach Council is going to call me up and I wish they would. I would tell them, I would ask them, how did you find the podcast? And tell your friends. But they've had outbreak problems before. Field produce does that. Every once in a while you get that issue. But you find out about it, and then either everybody knows, wash your lettuce, spinach, radishes, whatever it might turn out to be really well, or abandon them and start over again, whatever safety news you need. But you didn't get it this time. And this is, easily predictable. I think probably everybody here probably thinks this already happened 10 times, possibly. But now that you mention it, hey, I didn't hear about that. 15 different states with this E. coli outbreak, normally something the CDC blares wildly, correctly, but, waving wildly so that everybody knows the story pretty quickly. And Americans mostly ignore it, mostly because we believe the government is operating efficiently enough and beneficently enough that, this will get to, I don't need to worry about it. This will get to the supermarkets and the produce managers will pull the appropriate product or whatever, or hang up a warning sign or something. People will let me know if I'm about to buy something that's been a risky product in the last couple of days, because we have a system for this. So I don't really need to pay attention to it. But now you do, because the CDC either doesn't have the manpower or has been directed not to bother, or both, not to bother with telling people, there's E. coli in this product, that product. I don't know whether they're telling supermarket people or not. The supermarket people may not know. That stuff could still be on the shelves. Ordinarily, it happens in 2-3 states, but the fact that it's happened in 15, 30% of the states we've got, and you're only just hearing about it now, but in the context of, the CDC just effed off for the weekend and didn't bother telling anybody. So, that's hanging out there. I know it's a little bit of a diversion, but that's the way I like to do these things. This is how we would be having this conversation in person, except that you would have the opportunity to say, I know, I heard. Tell me more about what Chris Geidner had to say. Okay, fine. So he was in the middle of pointing out that the Trump administration is so clearly proceeding so dangerously and lawlessly in this case, with its implications for Abrego Garcia, all people in America. What were they talking about there? Trump told what? I don't know. Now I'm getting distracted again. Trump told us the horrifying reason why Kilmar Abrego Garcia is not back in the U.S. Chris told us previously in Law Dork. I should probably take a look at that one. And then, of course, all people in America are worried about this. The rule of law in general is under threat, and in other areas across the government. And those are just examples from Wednesday and Thursday, the three we mentioned and got on a tangent about. So much lawlessness and danger that people and institutions with substantial standing and even authority are starting to push back. And here we're talking about the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals. And importantly, we are seeing that it has effects. Nowhere was the pushback more stark for the legal world than when Wilkinson's opinion was issued. Technically, simply an order denying the Justice Department's request that the Fourth Circuit stay or block U.S. District Judge Paula Zinnes' April 10th order that the government, quote, facilitate Abrego Garcia's return. If I remember the procedural posture correctly, and I'm not certain that I do, it's very easy to lose track of which one is which, but as I recall, there was the reason it's back in Zinnes' court is that it got appealed all the way up to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court said 9-0, yeah, this is fine, just tweak the language of your order a little bit. Say facilitate rather than, what did they say, effectuate, and you should be fine. She followed their instructions. She did so. They appealed the order. I guess it was the Bozeman's latest order that, and I mean, they'll probably be doing it with this one too, that the government was appealing, but Steve Vladeck had been on TV and Greg had seen him, saying, yeah, it's not an appealable order. Well, here, this one, I guess, I don't know whether it was appealable or not, but the Fourth Circuit ruled on it. It may be that part of their ruling was, yeah, by the way, this was not even appealable, which is why you got an answer so quickly from a unanimous panel. But at any rate, even if it was an appealable situation, I don't know even what we were talking about here, an order or what, the answer came pretty quick from the Fourth Circuit. You lose again. Okay. Now back to Chris's summation of it. But from the beginning, the order in which he, Wilkinson, was joined by Judge Robert Bruce King, Robert the Bruce, King of Scotland, King of the Scots anyway, a Clinton appointee and very old. And, well, I'm kidding. But anyway, in case you think, I don't know, Robert Bruce King himself might be a young fellow. I don't know. But he was 12 when he was appointed by Clinton. He's got some years on him. And Judge Stephanie Thacker, an Obama appointee, was clear from its words that this was much more. And here he quotes the order. Wilkinson, joined by King and Thacker, and now it would be a 3-judge panel, so I guess a unanimous decision by the 3-judge panel. Upon review of the government's motion, now we know it was a motion at issue, the court denies the motion for an emergency stay pending appeal and for a writ of mandamus. Everyone's getting familiar with the writ of mandamus. By the way, it's supposed to be an extraordinary writ. It's actually referred to that way, the extraordinary writ of mandamus. And these guys are applying for them left, right, and, every day of the week. The relief the government is requesting is both extraordinary and premature. While we fully respect the executive's robust assertion of its Article 2 powers, I have an Article 2 which says I can do anything I want as president. He actually said that. We shall not micromanage the efforts of a fine district judge attempting to implement the Supreme Court's recent decision. I mean, it's everything you thought that they should be saying. The Supreme Court was very clear, 9-0, this is how you proceed from here. She did proceed in that manner. The Fourth Circuit has nothing to hang its hat on, even if they wanted to support the administration here. And they don't. That was not your ordinary stay denial, Chris is pointing out, nor should it have been. And that's the point. This was an order with a point. And while it made a point to the Justice Department lawyers who filed the request, as well as to Trump, Homeland Security, ICE, and the State Department, I think it is quite likely that it is also making a point to his superior court, the U.S. Supreme Court, and to the public. This is an easily digestible 7-page ruling. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but he did. So Chris says, I'm going to go through it, but he doesn't just reprint it. So good. This will be a nice summation. Here a quote from it. The government asserts that Abrego Garcia is a terrorist and a member of MS-13. Perhaps, but perhaps not. Wilkinson wrote, regardless, he is still entitled to due process. Additionally, he noted, the government admitted his removal was a mistake. Why then should it not make what was wrong right? That's the sort of simple, straightforward, no nonsense thinking that Americans love and expect from their president, Donald J. Trump. I mean, really, it should be, but no. He's convinced them otherwise, I guess, for whatever reason. Where was that? I saw yesterday somebody making, a good point that I was trying to build off of a little bit, saying, use simpler language. That you and I know immediately, I think, what is meant by, due process, for instance. But I think, here we are. And we're you know what? Why does he never? He's taken his full name out of his. That's probably a smart thing to do, but his name is Matthew something, right? But it's MTSW, and now I've forgotten what his actual full name is. But a very popular fellow on social media with a good 70,000 followers out there. But you probably are among them, and he's the guy with the wacky little icon of I don't know what that is, like the Pringles guy. Does he take is that the Pringles guy as his avatar on Blue Sky? Anyway, MTSW saying, I think just simply saying, in America, everyone is innocent until proven guilty. I mean, that's the cop show type dialogue, right? Everyone is innocent until proven guilty works better for low info normies than saying due process. Right? I had somebody else suggest, getting your day in court is a good one. Butadeus, in fact. The Wandering Jew on Blue Sky pointing out, that'll work too. It's a good point. Simple language. And as I said, taken from cop shows, not police procedurals. So Chris was saying, regardless, he's still entitled to due process, even if he is a member of MS-13, even if he is a terrorist, which he isn't. And conflating the two is ridiculous. And I guess the conflation is meant to people say, well, wait a minute, I actually feel differently about terrorists getting due process. Because there is that hang up that people have. And that's why they're trying to claim that gang membership is terrorism. Anyway, regardless, still entitled to due process, at least in the minds of the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals and most of the Supreme Court, I would guess. Additionally, he noted the government admitted his removal was a mistake. That's true. The lawyer who did it has since been suspended. That's also true. They're just trying mightily to pretend he didn't do that. But this is the problem that the DOJ has, is the lawyers on the spot who can lose their license or be in trouble for lying to the court that way are just stuck. And the courts are saying, well, if you don't want to do the lying, fine, bring us the officials who insist on that the lies be told, and we'll hold them in contempt. Anyway, why should it not make what was wrong right? That's a little bit of equitable language, courts of equity, chancery folks, right? Even if you don't think you have legal authority for it, you got to make what's wrong right. That's what we're all about here. Take note, Sebastian Gorka. Sebastian Gorka, yes, he's in fact gotten himself involved in this nonsense too. By the way, where's our little, here's our soundbite for Sebastian Gorka.
That dreadful Hungarian?
Yes, exactly, the one you're thinking of. Sebastian Gorka, I saw, and I'm going to have to grab his... probably his neck, but that's not really up to me. I don't get to do that. I have no legal authority to grab him by the neck and throttle him. But if you do, by all means. I just don't know who. But he was on TV the other day insisting with these bogus charges of that all gang members are equal terrorism, taking it one step further, or actually 6 to 100 steps further than most people. Because he is, in my view, he says, Gorka, I accuse him of being a terrorist. If you are defending his due process rights, you should be considered to be aiding and abetting his terrorism. No, you absolutely should not. And you can't be. And the whole system, everything collapses at that point. All right. Well, at any rate, that must be why he makes mention of, take note, Sebastian Gorka, you dreadful Hungarian. From there, Wilkinson moved to the Supreme Court's order in the case, saying the Supreme Court's decision remains, as always, our guidepost. That decision rightly requires the lower federal courts to give, quote, due regard for the deference owed to the executive branch in the conduct of foreign affairs, unquote. The Supreme Court's decision does not, however, allow the government to do essentially nothing. It requires the government to facilitate Abrego Garcia's release from custody in El Salvador and to ensure that his case is handled as it would have been handled had he not been improperly sent to El Salvador. There's your equity working again. Facilitate is an active verb. It requires that steps be taken, as the Supreme Court has made perfectly clear. There's your judicial parsing of the language there. In other words, to say, well, I won't do anything at all to facilitate his release, but I'm still in compliance with the court's order because the court can't order the executive branch to do anything. Well, it can. It can order you to facilitate his return. Well, I did. No, you didn't. You did nothing. Well, that's my option. No, it's not, because that's not facilitating anything. Forget effectuate. You didn't even try. That was not the end of that. In fact, he was just getting warmed up, as it turns out. I'm just getting warmed up. Oh, man, why am I doing this? Facilitation does not permit the admittedly erroneous deportation of an individual to the one country's prisons that the withholding order forbids. That's a good point. Remember that Abrego Garcia had a standing court order forbidding his deportation to El Salvador. So he was deported not only to directly to a supermax crazy ass prison, but one in El Salvador, in violation of that court order. Facilitation does not permit the admittedly erroneous deportation of an individual to the one country's prisons that the withholding order forbids, and further, to do so in disregard of another court order that the government not so subtly spurns. Facilitation does not sanction the abrogation of habeas corpus through the transfer of custody to foreign detention centers in the manner attempted here. Allowing all this would facilitate foreign detention more than it would domestic return. It would reduce the rule of law to lawlessness and tarnish the very values for which Americans of diverse views and persuasions have always stood. Wilkinson then noted, the government is obviously frustrated and displeased with the rulings of the court. Let one thing be clear. Court rulings are not above criticism. Criticism keeps us on our toes and helps us do a better job. While courts can and do overstep at times, he wrote that they act with the knowledge of their imperfections, but also with the sense that they instill a fidelity to law that would be sorely missed in their absence. Well, that's the judiciary, Chris notes, but what about the executive? From there, he discussed the respect given to the energy in the executive, citing the Federalist Papers, noting how that can rescue, the other one that's spelled similarly, that can rescue government from its lassitude and recalibrate imbalances too long left unexamined. Okay, a little flowery, right? But turning back to the case at hand, he wrote, the executive possesses enormous powers to prosecute and to deport, but with powers come restraints. You've probably heard of checks and balances, yeah? Even on cop shows. If today the executive claims the right to deport without due process and in disregard of court orders, and that's really the big one here, what assurance will there be tomorrow that it will not deport American citizens and then disclaim responsibility to bring them home? And what assurance shall there be that the executive will not train its broad discretionary powers upon its political enemies? The threat, even if not the actuality, would always be present, and the executive's obligation to take care that the laws be faithfully executed would lose its meaning. That point echoes the warnings from Justice Sotomayor in both her Alien Enemies Act dissent and her statement regarding the order in the Abrego Garcia case. Swooping back out, Wilkinson all but directly turns to Trump with this statement: the basic differences between the branches mandate a serious effort at mutual respect. The respect that courts must accord the executive must be reciprocated, like you have a reciprocal tariff, reciprocated by the executive's respect for the courts. Too often today, this has not been the case, as calls for impeachment of judges for decisions that the executive disfavors and exhortations to disregard court orders sadly illustrate. He then invoked former President Dwight Eisenhower. Putting his personal opinions aside, President Eisenhower honored his inescapable duty to enforce the Supreme Court's decision in Brown v. Board of Education, 2, by the way, to desegregate schools with all deliberate speed. That was essential, he noted, quoting Eisenhower. Unless the president did so, anarchy would result. Of this moment, Wilkinson then wrote, now the branches come too close to grinding irrevocably against one another in a conflict that promises to diminish both. Looking back at Trump, as well as at Attorney General Pam Bondi, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, and Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, Wilkinson concluded, it is, as we have noted, all too possible to see in this case an incipient crisis, but it may present an opportunity as well, and now some highlighting from Chris. We yet cling to the hope that it is not naive to believe our good brethren in the executive branch perceive the rule of law as vital to the American ethos. Oh boy, well, this won't go over big with the normies, but you get it. This case presents their unique chance to vindicate that value and summon the best that is within us while there is still time. Ooh, that is a little scary. In his more than 40 years on the appeals court, Wilkinson has been known as one of the most sharp conservative voices in the nation. His statement on Thursday, joined by his colleagues, is a message that few in the legal world will miss. It's a warning that members of the Trump administration and the president himself must understand. Uh-oh, they probably have a sound effect for that one. Probably this. Yeah. Do you understand what's going on here?
No!
Oh, well. Or more likely, you read that flowing, that flourish, the rhetorical flourish with which he says, you know, we got to do something here before it's too late. And Trump was quoted on the record on that.
Boring!
Yeah, probably the big response there. Anyway, his statement on Thursday, joined by his colleagues, is a message that few in the legal world will miss, and a warning to that members of the Trump administration and the president himself must understand, and is a lesson for us all. Well, all right. So I'm glad you've absorbed it. I wanted to give you a chance to hear that lesson recited for you. Gosh, there's a million other things we really need to bring to your attention, and man, I don't even know where to start with this one. Let's see. There's like 10 different things, and no time to even look through them and decide which one flows from this to the next. I don't know. All right, so let me click on a couple of these things. Oh well, that's gonna take us some time. That needs to be okay. You know what I'll do here? I'm shortchanging this, but I'm gonna do it anyway because it seems fairly important. This is something I got from not the previous Attorney General Bill Barr, but our friend and the fellow listener and longtime supporter of the show with a long history of donations, had sent me news of a personal nature that bears on the deportation situation. Someone with whom he's got a personal relationship who is Haitian and had removed himself from the earthquake-devastated Haiti to the United States under a humanitarian parole program, and nonetheless found himself once again under threat of deportation from the Trump administration. And let me see if I can't find, I'll have to straighten it out. I'll probably wait until after the break to bring you up to date on this. But as it happens, this is someone who he personally has helped out and taken in as a refugee from Haiti and helped build a life in the United States. The guy wrote a book about his experiences and everything. I'm not a book reader. I'm just not. But Bill had offered me, you want a copy of this book and read his background story, and had just said so, like maybe weeks before then coming back with this frightening story that his friend and really family member had been threatened with deportation, and of course his entire family along with him. The good news is, I don't have to keep you on the edge of your seat during the 1 minute break. Things appear to be working out better than expected, but certainly exactly what we hoped for. But he sent me a copy of a flyer that he had presented to try to raise community awareness about this thing, and I certainly had meant to share it this week. And I thought, thankfully, the situation has more or less resolved itself, and I hope it sticks, such that we can approach this from a standpoint of knowing the ending of this story that could otherwise be outrageous and tragic. But I can share the contents of the flyer with you, plus an update on the news story, just to give a sort of personal angle to this. It's not my own personal angle, but another of your fellow listeners embroiled in exactly this kind of tension and anxiety that you could imagine millions of people going through. But I guess for some reason we thought we were perhaps somewhat more removed from it, being East Coast and West Coast elites here in this country. Obviously, the label that the Trump forces want to hang on us, despite the fact that we're not even billionaires. Anyway, this does affect everybody, and everybody knows somebody who's at least worried about this. And, this is a great story. I'll share it with you after the break. I know it's a little bit disjointed, but that's the nature of the show today. There's a lot to catch up on. We should be paying attention to a lot of things, mostly because Donald Trump will be paying attention to almost none of it over the weekend, but will nonetheless pontificate about it and change the nature of the story in an offhand way. All right, welcome back now to the Kagro in the Morning Show here on Netroots Radio. Just trying to take look at that. Some interesting stories being suggested by Scott on the side here, and one of them, I don't know, definitely going to make my review at some point. Whether or not we can fit it on the air today, I don't know. But Bill Barr had sent me this. This is a great, I think, encapsulation of what was going on, although he was filling me in on his story some time ago. But this is, I think, a great encapsulation of things that came to me attached with his email. Deserving Haitian family legally in the U.S. seeking relief from expulsion order. He was trying to let everybody know what was going on right there in the neighborhood. This is a request for your help in exploring ways for a resourceful and deserving Haitian family to remain in the United States. It was the Bernard family, and guess what? I think they're so far, they're in better shape when they were in when this saga began. The Bernard family, 4 adults, 2 children, legally entered the United States, and if that's important to you. I mean, we want to be concerned with everybody. But even for the doubters among the MAGA crowd, although there are plenty who now say, I don't even care if it's legally, there's no such thing. Well, there is. Legally entered the United States under a 2023 humanitarian parole program. However, on March 21st, 2025, their parole period was shortened. Like, they got paroled into the United States for X number of years, and you're supposed to be able to rely on that. But magically, Donald Trump says, oh, no, actually, a different date than is on your paper. Your parole date is now shortened, and they are now subject to being expelled to gang-dominated Haiti if they do not secure alternative legal status by April 24th, 2025, which would just be in, 6 days from now, had they not found a solution, and we hope it sticks. Well, what about the Bernard family? Let me tell you from the flyer here a little bit about the background. 15 years ago, a young man in Haiti, Junior Bernard, under the sponsorship of the Brick, New Jersey Barr family, And a nice photo of the family provided here. Hello. Hey, I imagine, which one of you is Bill? I'm not positive, I can tell. But anyway, that the correspondence never came with pictures before. Anyway, under the sponsorship of the Barr family. So again, be proud, listening community, that one among you is, and I'm sure there are many among you, similarly serving the interests of humanity at large this way, sponsoring an immigrant family from Haiti. So thanks for that alone, Bill. Well, 15 years ago, Junior Bernard escaped the extreme poverty of rural Haiti, coming to the United States under a student visa. He persistently studied English as a second language, or another language, it says here. So he may have 3 or 4, I don't know, maybe 12, I don't know, which helped prep him for his post-secondary education. He was awarded scholarships to attend Alvernia University. Is that right? Have I pronounced it correctly? I'm not even sure. I hope so. I don't know of any. I can't think of an alternative pronunciation. Junior has since graduated and was selected to give the Alvernia University class of 2014 commencement speech. Photo provided here as well. Junior has built an enormously productive life as a United States citizen. You know, isn't that everything we wanted from this program? Yes, of course. Does that matter to Trump? Not at all. And he is working tirelessly to pay it forward by helping his fellow Haitians in several ways. Junior started a food program that has helped to feed thousands in Haiti. He created an online school, Pranzel Elite School, with graduates shown at right. Again, photo provided. And what is it? It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. A good dozen graduates of this particular year in their graduation regalia. He created an online school to prepare his fellow Haitians for remote work opportunities from Haiti. That should excite the Trump administration to no end. From Haiti? Fantastic, right? And yet, what's he doing about it? Next up, a family's search for security. And most recently, under the 2023 Humanitarian Parole Program for Haitians, Junior and the Bars sponsored Junior's family to come to the United States and escape the political and economic strife in Haiti while seeking their dreams of economic self-reliance. Remember when Republicans were for economic self-reliance? Since arriving, Junior's adult siblings, 3 brothers and a sister, with her children, shown again in another lovely family photo above, have all contributed to the American economy, as so many immigrants do, no matter what their status, by the way, working full-time jobs at an Amazon processing warehouse while also studying English. Despite their full plate, life in the United States has given Junior's family the opportunity to recover from the constant stresses of living in a gang-dominated, poverty-ravaged Haiti. Poor Donald Trump, so beset here by people who want to prepare people to work productively, probably in service to the United States economy, by the way, from remote jobs in Haiti while dealing with the dangers of gang domination, which I thought was an issue of some sort in the deportation dramas that are playing out, but apparently not. In addition to Junior's efforts on behalf of his fellow Haitians, he and his siblings also seek to help the underprivileged in the United States. So, wow, thank you very much. And as payment, get out. After witnessing the challenges that low-income Americans face, the Bernard family, this is a Haitian family, right? It comes here and says, wow, look at the challenges that low-income Americans face. The Bernard family are just weeks away from launching a purpose-driven startup called ImpactZell.com, IMPACT, Impact, and then ZEL, which I guess, does that come from the Pranzel Elite School? Is that a mashup of the two concepts there? The mission is to improve the lives of struggling families by forging connections to free and affordable community resources, including food, healthcare, scholarships, and grants. So I would guess, by the way, I don't know, I haven't looked at the website again, but let me give it to you again, ImpactZell.com. Impact, just like you'd think, then ZEL at the back of it there, .com. Take a look. I mean, I haven't had a chance to take a look myself, but let me put it this way. Bill's been a big supporter of the program, been donating for a long time, and my guess is that it might be welcome at impactzell.com to return the favor with donations. So to the extent that there are more of you out there from whom I might otherwise be able to wring that extra money out to support the program, should absolutely think about that, by the way. But maybe today is the day to go to impactzell.com and see if there isn't a way that you can help out Junior and his family who've been helped by Bill, who's helped us. You see what we're doing here? I don't know. I don't know what you would call it, but let me encourage you to take a look. And if not, we'll give Bill the opportunity to tell us where that extra money that might be burning a hole in your pocket might be of more help. But my guess is that it might be helpful and welcomed there. So again, the mission is to improve the lives of struggling families by forging connections to free and affordable community resources, including food, healthcare, scholarships, and grants. Expecting to stay through the end of the promised term, the family had signed leases on their apartment and entered into employment contracts with Amazon. So, at the time of the writing of the flyer, what was next for the Bernard family? Well, now the family is being expelled from the U.S. because of how rotten and terrible they are, obviously, helping everybody wherever they go. And you know how much Trump hates that. And they're being forced to return to the gang violence that dominates all corners of Haiti. To make matters worse, they must evacuate by April 24th, an immediate deadline imposing unspeakable hardships, especially considering that they are in the United States legally. We are hopeful that you may be aware of avenues whereby Junior's family may remain in the United States, at least for the short term. What are the options for us to consider? And are there resources you can suggest? Thank you for your consideration in addressing the Bernard family's impending hardships. Well, that may be motivating you to action, and that would be a great thing. I do have good news, however, and it comes under the AP News headline, Judge will halt Trump administration from ending humanitarian parole for people from 4 countries. And hey, well, I'll be gosh darned if one of them isn't Haiti. So it's a pretty good outcome for the moment. I'm sure they'll be appealing it or possibly even ignoring it later on. So in addition to the interest we may have in donating funds to impactzell.com, we might also keep an eye on the situation. Maybe we'll hear more from Bill if trouble arises again and an opportunity arises for those of us with expertise or suggestions about how you might approach this situation to forward them to him. So the AP News article, Michael Casey writes, was published on April 10th, so it's going on a week since we heard this news, I guess. Or we didn't hear it until now. Federal judge said Thursday, and that's a week ago, that she will prevent the Trump administration from ordering hundreds of thousands of Cubans, Haitians, Nicaraguans, and Venezuelans with temporary legal status to leave the country later this month. Meanwhile, the administration reportedly packing Venezuelans on a plane in Texas as we speak. The ruling is significant, although perhaps temporary, setback for the administration as it dismantles Biden-era policies that created new and expanded pathways for people to live in the United States, generally for 2 years, with work authorization. Short-term, work attached, that's great. Exactly the way we always, even immigration opponents used to say they were willing to accept it being done, that they preferred it being done that way. And then they realized, we can get rid of them anyway with the Trump administration? Okay, well, we never liked anybody. U.S. District Judge Indira Talwani, I don't think we've heard about her yet. She said she would issue a stay on an order for more than 500,000. Wow. Cubans, Haitians, Nicaraguans, and Venezuelans. And I'll give it this to the Republicans. The Republicans used to exempt Cubans from this all the time. And, for various reasons. And, usually protected by people like Marco Rubio, who's of Cuban descent himself, and it was just a thing in Florida. Like, you don't touch the Cubans. So Marco Rubio signs on for indentured servitude with Trump, and the Cubans lose their protections. What a deal Marco made for them. Anyway, their permits were all to be canceled April 24th. During a hearing, Talwani repeatedly questioned the government's assertion that it could end humanitarian parole for the 4 nationalities. She argued that immigrants in the program who are here legally now face an option of fleeing the country or staying and risk losing everything. The nub of the problem here is that the secretary was that Marco Rubio himself, my goodness, in cutting short the parole period afforded to these individuals has to have a reasoned decision. And I'm not even certain which secretary we're talking about. It could be, well, let's see. I mean, like immigration comes under the immigration forces anyway, CPB, etc. Come under DHS, and that's Kristi Noem. So it could be her order. But doubly ironic if it was Marco Rubio being strong-armed by Trump into expelling Cubans, but okay. But the nub of the problem here is that the secretary, in cutting short the parole period afforded to these individuals, has to have a reasoned decision. What does that mean? Just to translate that back into language you've heard from us before, it means that the reason can't be arbitrary and capricious. Right. Administrative Procedures Act at work. Talwani added that the explanation for ending the program was based on an incorrect reading of the law, and you don't want that. There was a deal, and now that deal has been undercut, she said later in the hearing. Last month, the administration revoked legal protections, or at least thought they did, for hundreds of thousands of Cubans, Haitians, Nicaraguans, and Venezuelans, setting them up for potential deportation in 30 days. They arrived with financial sponsors. Another thing that Republicans frequently said, well, if they had that, then it would be okay. All right, we'll get some. Okay, we were kidding. Not like that. You're still out of here. They arrived with financial sponsors. Bill Barr is one of them, applying online and paying their own airfare for 2-year permits to live and work in the U.S. So they did all the paperwork. They paid money to get here. They lined up jobs ahead of time and financial sponsors ahead of time, did all the things we asked of them. And the Trump administration says, I don't care. During that time, the beneficiaries needed to find other legal pathways if they wanted to stay longer in the U.S. Parole is a temporary status. President Donald Trump has been ending legal pathways for immigrants to come to the U.S., implementing campaign promises to deport millions of people who are in the U.S. illegally. And as it turns out, the low-hanging fruit is deporting people who are in the country legally. Isn't that something? Marco Rubio, his Secretary of State, helping out with this. Wasn't he once one of the gang of however many they had now, 8, I think, who were, well, we're all about trying to find pathways to legal pathways to entering the United States and legal pathways to citizenship, except if we're strong-armed into serving in a Trump administration, in which case, screw you all. Outside court immigration advocates, including Gerline Joseph, founder and executive director of the Haitian Bridge Alliance, one of the plaintiffs in the lawsuit, said attacks on the program contradict the Trump administration's strategy on immigration. Yeah, that'll happen. We hear the narrative of people coming here illegally and the administration wanting to erase illegal immigration, Joseph said. But we clearly see today that is not the case. Even those people who have legal status are paying their taxes and working are under attack. Cesar Baez, an activist with the political opposition in Venezuela, said he feared for his life and left his country to come to the U.S. under the sponsorship of a doctor. A doctor? Oh. He arrived under the humanitarian parole program in December of 2022 and, for the last year, has been working as a producer at a media outlet in Washington. Oh, he should have been working for the Daily Caller or something if he wanted to be safe. He has applied for a working visa as another way to get legal status and has also requested asylum, but those processes have also been paused under the Trump administration. For him, the judge's announcement means hope. It is very important to me to have protections and not be removed to Venezuela, said Baez, 24. I have no doubt that if I set foot in the country, I would be immediately imprisoned. Well, unfortunately, under the Trump administration's view is, well, if we can't send you to Venezuela, then you'll be immediately imprisoned in El Salvador instead. Zamora, a 34-year-old Cuban woman, did we not introduce her earlier? I don't know. Maybe that's it. This is just her first. It's her first name. Last name being withheld for security reasons. Due to fears of being detained and deported, received the judge's news as relief. I was terrified of being left without a work permit, said Zamora, whose parole and work permit expire in September. We are people who, in order to come here, have gone through several background checks, and the government takes away our status as if we had been criminals and entered illegally. Advocates who called the administration's action unprecedented said it would result in people losing their legal status and ability to work, and argued that it violated federal rulemaking. And I'm sure that it does. All right. Let's see. How much longer? Oh, not that much longer to get through this. Good. All right. We'll read the rest of it. The government's lawyer, Brian Ward, argued in court that ending the program doesn't mean that individuals couldn't be considered for other immigration programs. They'll just lose there too, and will sue. He also said the government wouldn't prioritize them for deportation, something Talwani found suspect, given that they could be arrested if they happened to go to the hospital or were involved in a car accident, or just happened to be driving a car near an ICE agent with a crowbar, for instance. The end of temporary protections for these immigrants has generated little political blowback among Republicans, other than 3 Cuban American representatives from Florida who called for preventing the deportation of the Venezuelans affected even. How about that? One of them, Representative Maria Salazar of Miami, also joined about 200 congressional Democrats this week in co-sponsoring a bill that would enable them to become lawful permanent residents. All right, that is good news. I'm glad that that's working out better for Junior and Bill Barr and everyone involved. But yeah, this is really rather startling. And I don't know, I just wanted to sort of like let you know that there was, I guess, what we would consider local angle, on this one. Somebody who listens to this little old podcast that you listen to, directly involved in this, and directly involved in sponsoring an immigrant family and trying to help them do everything that they can do to follow the rules and respect the system and all the things that Republicans said would exempt you from that kind of persecution, and nonetheless subjected them to it instead. All right, and I'm sure that there's a better update that we can give at some time in the near future. I feel like, I'm going to go back and look. I feel like I must be missing something here. There's also this. Right. Here's Bill's own email to us about this. Yesterday, this would have been Wednesday of this week, Junior and his family from Haiti received this from Amazon, their employer. So it appears as if the family will not lose their parole status and they do not have to leave the U.S. for now. So recapping some of this, but this is what people who have work contracts with big companies, including Amazon. And isn't there a rich, famous guy who owns Amazon and maybe also a newspaper and is apparently influential with the administration because he paid a bribe to Trump for his inauguration or something? Anyway, the Amazon corporate sent this news on April 14th. A federal court blocked the Department of Homeland Security from terminating the humanitarian parole program for individuals from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela. If you are on humanitarian parole from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, or Venezuela, you will not lose your immigration status as expected on April 24th, and your current employment authorization documentation expiration date will remain valid at this time. Your re-verification case will remain open while court proceedings are ongoing, and you are able to re-verify at any time. Please monitor your case in My HR for the latest updates from Amazon's work authorization team. So it sounds like they're making an effort to try to keep people up to date on that through the HR department. If you receive notification from Amazon work authorization team about your immigration status in error, and are not on humanitarian parole for our Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, or Venezuela, please contact the site at MyHR. And see, at least even Amazon is willing to admit mistakes and help straighten them out. So anyway, I just found that rather astonishing, and I wanted to share that story with you. All right. There's a million other things too, and it is a Friday. We should sort of take in some of the other weird offbeat stories. And let's see. There are a couple here that deserve some attention. What is this here? By the way, okay, that was, we needed that for the other day. There's so many that we're backed up on. But let me share this one with you, because this may also flow into something that Rosalind McGregor has sent me here. Where's the piece I had put aside? Is this it? Yeah. Something from this morning's Washington Post, which returns to a theme that we've hit on a couple of times over the years and is always a constant theme. Russia seeds chatbots with lies. Any bad actor could game AI the same way. Yeah, a constant fear with AI and the widening increasing occurrences of running into AI slop. I now disregard whatever top result I get from any Google search, because it turns out usually, now that spot is reserved for an AI chatbot I never asked to talk to, giving me a terrible answer. What did I do this morning? I mean, so many people have shown such ludicrous examples of AI garbage. I think this morning I was looking for the quote that Trump said, because, gosh, another story that probably isn't going to get enough play here, but this morning on social media, noticed the story is that the Trump administration has gotten frustrated and is about to give up. Not that they ever really worked hard on the supposed peace negotiations between Ukraine and Russia. They were never really interested in conducting them. But the new thing is that they're announcing, if we don't get, peace in Ukraine, like in the next couple hours or something, F it, we give up. We're stopping. We're not even going to try anymore. And we were never really on Ukraine's side, but now we'll be officially against Ukraine. We're not going to help them anymore. They don't want peace, and we're tired of even trying to find peace. And several people pointing out, one of the Trump campaign promises was, or his language on it was, I will end that war in one day. It would take less than 24 hours, or it would take 24 hours. I know Zelensky well. I know Putin well. I would get that ended in a period of 24 hours, not even 2 weeks. It would be easy. That deal would be very easy. Like, holy cow. So now, of course, that's how it started. Now, how it's going, I give up. It's too hard. I'm going to quit. What I'm going to say, read that alongside his trade war rhetoric from, I think, the first administration. Trade wars are good and easy to win. He keeps saying that he can do these things, that everything's, why don't you just ism? And snap his fingers. Easy, 24 hours, I'll do it. I know Putin. Like, so what? I know who Putin is, too. He's not going to listen to me. He's not going to listen to you. Anyway, now we're withdrawing from the peace process. Not that we were ever really involved. And that makes the news this morning. But so, I don't know. I just thought I would read alongside this story, because when I went to Google, didn't Trump once say, trade wars are good and easy to win? What was the context of that? Am I missing anything? Is there a fuller quote? I want to use that because, again, it's a second example of him basically having no idea that things are hard, which is amazing. And I Googled it. And the first, it did give me some articles where it used to be that you'd Google something and you would get articles or pages on the web where that quote appeared. And from there, you could pretty much figure out whether you had it right or not. But what it gave me today was AI slop about evaluating that statement. Can I grab that? Can I do that live on the air? Maybe I can. Let me open up there. And it didn't work the same way as it did on my phone. But it gave me basically trade wars are good and easy to win is a controversial approach to something like that. It's a people aren't sure whether they really are good or easy to win like that. It just made up an argument, answer to a question I wasn't even asking. But I don't know. Anyway, so why does that happen in general? AI. Why do companies think we want AI? I'm not even sure. They just figure that they can make some money this way. I'm not even sure how that works, but they're cramming it down our throat nonetheless. And guess what? Someone's taking advantage of it. Russia, who seeds chatbots with lies. Any bad actor could game AI the same way, says the headline. The subheader, that I can get in before the break. In their race to push out new versions with more capability, AI companies leave users vulnerable to LLM grooming. LLM, large language model, that much I've learned. Not master of letters, but large language model grooming. An interesting attachment to that and cramming together of two terms. LLM grooming efforts that promote bogus information. And you can kind of imagine probably, without my wasting your time with this article, or at least not the entire article, exactly what they're talking about here. Joseph Menn is the article's author. We'll give you a taste for it and move to the other stuff later. Hi everybody, it's me, David Waldman. Yes, the same guy who interrupts you all the time. Interrupting you one more time just to tell you again, another reminder that your contributions are what keep this show on the air, and patreon.com, patreon.com, is still among the easiest ways to make the sustaining subscription donations that keep us afloat. Are you ready for the pep talk about how our Patreon campaign is still going strong and growing? Well, too bad. Yeah, the plain fact is we actually are headed in the wrong direction, and whereas we once had about 175 monthly patrons, we're now actually down below 150. Time to recruit some more. Not exactly the kind of news I wanted to share, but there it is. For those of you in a position to support the show, patreon.com does make it easy to make those secure, recurring monthly contributions to do so. Patreon.com/KagroX gets you straight to our donation page. We've been through a lot together. The worst of the pandemic, we hope. The worst of the insurrection, we hope. So go ahead and treat yourself. You don't need an excuse. Give yourself the gift of a little something you enjoy in life. Support the show. And of course, if you happen to prefer using PayPal or even the Square Cash app, we're up and running on those options too. So thanks again, everyone, for all your support. We couldn't, or at least shouldn't, do it without you. Hope you'll be on board soon too. Thanks for all your support. All right, welcome back now to the Kagro in the Morning Show here on Netroots Radio. Let's throw this Friday item out for your consideration. Russia seeds chatbots with lies. Any bad actor could game AI the same way, although Russia's probably the one we should be worried about the most. It's interesting that they even approach this like, well, you know, some other American bad actors, commercial actors, could game the system in the same way. Yeah, but tell me more about Russia, though, doing it. Like, you know, if I don't know, Reebok does it to make me think that the Reebok sneakers are better than Nike sneakers. I mean, I don't want to be manipulated, but I'm a little less concerned about that manipulation than Russia convincing me that all of my neighbors need to be murdered, like, for instance. Like, that would be bad. Tell me more about that. Well, Joseph Menn is going to tell us about all of it. Whether or not we'll read everything Joseph has to say remains to be seen. Russia is automating the spread of false information. They were doing that by hand before, but now they're automating it. The spread of false information to fool artificial intelligence chatbots on key topics, offering a playbook to other bad actors on how to game AI to push content meant to inflame, influence, and obfuscate instead of inform. Information wants to be free, man. Well, information wants to be wrong now, apparently. We didn't realize that. Experts warn the problem is worsening as more people rely on chatbots rushed to market because money, and you know what? There's not even money involved. You're burning the money, but who cares? I don't know why they love it so much. Anyway, this chatbots rushed to market, social media companies cutting back on moderation, of course, and the Trump administration disbanding government teams fighting disinformation. I feel like we must have mentioned this somewhere along the line, but if not, I wouldn't be terribly surprised if it was caught up in pocket there. But yeah, that too. Just coincidentally, one big decision from the Trump administration: stop trying to stop Russia from influencing people with false information. What a weird decision. It's almost as if, earlier this year, when researchers asked 10 leading chatbots, don't ask chatbots anything, about topics targeted by false Russian messaging, such as the claim the United States was making bioweapons in Ukraine. Do you remember that one? a third of the responses repeated those lies. Moscow's propaganda inroads highlight a fundamental weakness of the AI industry. Everything. Chatbot answers depend on the data fed into them, which, by the way, is just another of the root of their problems. They do depend on the data fed into them, and they require stealing that data from others who own it and generate it themselves and own intellectual property in it. But, well, if we can't steal it, then we can't build these chatbots. I know. And F them. They're terrible. They give the wrong answers to everything, and they help no one. Please, no more of these chatbots. Anyway, a guiding principle is that the more the chatbots read, the more informed their answers will be, which is why the industry is ravenous for content. You know, another thought occurred to me here, just a diversionary thought here, but you recognize the idea here is, the guiding principle is, the more the chatbots read, the more informed their answers will be. In other words, do you remember from the campaign finance wars, the campaign finance legislative debates, the Republican position, in particular, as espoused by Mitch McConnell, chiefly, actually, was that the idea of restricting money in politics wasn't the answer. The answer to problematic speech or whatever is more speech. And this is a related example here, like the more a chatbot is exposed to, the better informed it will be. Yeah, well, what if it's garbage that it's exposed to? Well, then the answer is counter garbage with the truth. But you can't counter garbage with the truth as quickly as you can just automate the generation of garbage. And it's problematic and it's ruining the thing. Meanwhile, same thing with free speech. The answer to the speech you don't like is more speech. Well, we can't generate truthful speech as quickly as false and hateful and targeted speech. And it's a similar problem, and it's also a similar falsehood as a result, I think. The AI will learn better the more speech it's exposed to. And if you're worried about bad speech, overwhelm it with good stuff. Why don't you just overwhelm it with the good? Well, it's not easy to do. And it doesn't work that way. Why don't you just overwhelm the bad money with good money? Well, it's hard to raise money. And it's a lot easier to motivate the raising of badly motivated money because people think they're going to get that money back as an investment. They're going to remake policy and be able to grift that money back. And nobody really thinks that way with good policy. They just think, we'll have good policy, and that's good in general, and it'll lift everyone up, but I won't recoup my investment. So it's not as easy to jump in. Anyway, little diversion there. Moscow's propaganda inroads highlight a fundamental weakness of the AI industry. Chatbots' answers depend on data fed into them. We just did that. I just realized that. But again, the general principle, the more the better, right? But mass quantities of well-aimed chaff can skew the answers on specific topics. For Russia, that's the war in Ukraine. But for a politician, it could be an opponent. For a commercial firm, it could be a competitor. Both worrisome. Tell me more about that first one. Most chatbots struggle with disinformation, says Giada Pistilli, principal ethicist at open source AI platform. I didn't name it, and I'll trust that this article tells me the actual name of this AI platform, Hugging Face. I don't know what the effing F that is supposed to mean. Terrible name in my view. Even if you explain it to me, I'm never going to agree with this one. That's open source AI platform, Hugging Face. I don't know if it's Hugging Face. Like, you've got a lovely face. I would call it a hugging face. Or is it, I'm an alien and I just shot out of somebody's stomach and now I'm going to be hugging face and implanting another alien embryo in your body. What is hugging face? I don't know. We'll concentrate on what they have to say. Again, Giada Pistilli, principal ethicist at Hugging Face, says they have basic safeguards against harmful content, chatbots, but can't reliably spot sophisticated propaganda. And the problem gets worse with search-augmented systems that prioritize recent information. So the more recent your made up crap, the higher priority it gets in its reading. Early commercial attempts to manipulate chat results are also gathering steam, with some of the same digital marketers who once offered search engine optimization, you remember SEO, for higher Google rankings. Well, now they're trying to pump up mentions by AI chatbots through generative engine optimization. That's now the new thing, GEO. We'll give you that for $1 million. As people use AI engines to coach them on how to produce more attention-grabbing chatbot content, sort of feeding on itself here, the volume of that content is expanding much faster than its quality is improving. That may frustrate ordinary users, but it plays into the hands of those with the most means and the most to gain. For now, experts say that is national governments with expertise in spreading propaganda. We were predicting this was where the stuff was going to eventually go, said a former U.S. military leader on influence defense, speaking on condition of anonymity to discuss sensitive issues. Probably already fired, if not happening soon. Now that this is going more towards machine to machine in terms of scope, scale, time, and potential impact, we're lagging. Russia, and to a lesser extent China, have been exploiting that advantage by flooding the zone with fables. But anyone could do the same, burning up far fewer resources than previous troll farm operations where they had actual people. It's a great irony in replacing troll farms with troll bot farms instead, and not even keeping the people employed. Huh? What if disgruntled legions of former internet trolls in Russia, now unemployed and desperate, were to overthrow the regime there? That would be interesting. I don't know if it would be better, though. I mean, it's hard to believe that anything wouldn't be, but I don't know. One of the early beneficiaries in Russia's long effort to convince the West that Ukraine is not worth protecting from invasion. Oh, I've read that as though this was the introductory phrase here. One of the early beneficiaries is Russia's effort to do that, and it seems to have worked with our president and the vast majority of the governing party in this country. Debunked accounts of French, quote, mercenaries and a non-existent Danish flying instructor. That's his nationality. It's not Danish flying is no different from any other kind of flying. Getting killed in Ukraine. Fake French mercenaries, non-existent Danish flying instructor killed in Ukraine, apparently. That stuff shows up in response to questions posed to the biggest chatbots, along with credulous descriptions of staged videos showing purported Ukrainian soldiers burning the American flag and President Donald Trump in effigy. Wouldn't be so upsetting necessarily to find that happening. But the flag thing, whatever. Many versions of such stories first appear on Russian government-controlled media outlets such as TASS that are banned in the European Union. In a process sometimes called information laundering, the narratives then move on to many ostensibly independent media sites, including scores known as the Pravda Network, after references to the Russian word for truth that appears in many of the website domain names, and of course was one of the major newspaper organs of the Communist Party back in the day. Yeah, I just thought the paper still existed post-communism, but maybe it's just this network when I see that URL. In a twist that befuddled researchers for a whole year, almost no human beings visit these sites, these Pravda sites. I've seen them, so I guess I'm one of them. But mostly I see them in searches, and I say, I don't need that information. I won't go there. Anyway, almost no humans visit these sites, which are hard to browse or search. Instead, their content is aimed at crawlers, the software programs that scour the web and bring back content for search engines and large language models. While those AI ventures are trained on a variety of data sets, an increasing number are offering chatbots that search the current web. Those are more likely to pick up something false if it is recent, and even more so if hundreds of pages on the web are saying much the same thing. Operators have an incentive to create alternative outlets that obscure the origin of these narratives, and this is exactly what the Pravda network appears to be doing, said Mackenzie Sadeghi, an AI expert with NewsGuard, which scores sites on reliability. The gambit is even more effective because the Russian operation managed to get links to the Pravda network stories edited into Wikipedia pages and public Facebook group postings, probably with the help of human contractors. Many AI companies give special weight to Facebook, and especially Wikipedia, as accurate sources. That's probably true. Wikipedia said this month that its bandwidth costs have soared 50% in just over a year, mostly because of AI crawlers. Because the new propaganda systems are highly automated by their own AI efforts, they're far cheaper to run than traditional influence campaigns. They do even better in such places as China, where traditional media is more tightly controlled and there are fewer sources for the bots. Several members of Congress now, including now Secretary of State Marco Rubio, said in June that they were alarmed that Google's Gemini chatbot was repeating the Chinese government line on its treatment of ethnic minorities and its response to the coronavirus pandemic. Analysts said Gemini probably relied too much on Chinese sources. Google declined to comment. Some experts said the faulty answers on chatbots reminded them of misplaced enthusiasm more than a decade ago. Oh, it's enthusiasm. I didn't realize that was happening. More than a decade ago for Facebook and what was then Twitter as unbeatable means for communication and establishing truth, before countries with vast budgets and ulterior motives harnessed themselves to these platforms. If the technologies and tools become biased, and they are already, and then malevolent forces control the bias, we're in a much worse situation than we were with social media, said Louis Tetu. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. What is that diacritical mark there? I don't know. Chief executive for Quebec City-based Covio, an AI software provider for business. The Pravda network has been documented in European reports since early 2024. Back then, the French government and others identified a network based in Crimea, a Ukrainian region on the Black Sea that was illegally annexed by Russia in 2014, created by a local company, TigerWeb, with ties to the Russian-backed government. French government agency, Viginum, Viginum, I don't know, French, said the system used pro-Russian sources, amplifying them with automation through social media, an array of sites that aimed first at Ukraine before moving on to Western European countries after the 2022 invasion. And the fact that they begin with Ukraine and then moved west, also reminiscent of the 2016 warning to the Republican leadership in Congress by the then Prime Minister of Ukraine, who had traveled all the way to D.C. to tell them all that. And then the Republican leadership taped in their discussion of it, misunderstanding the whole thing, and then finally resulting in, Putin pays Trump, and let's keep it all a secret. All right. Well, there's more to this article, but at this point, I think you get the idea, and there's more specifics offered on some of the particular examples hinted at earlier. It's also worth mentioning that down here there is the State Department's Global Engagement Center, long charged with countering foreign propaganda, was closed in December after top Trump funder Elon Musk, accused it of censorship, and the majority Republican Congress stopped funding it. Attorney General Pam Bondi shut down the FBI's Foreign Influence Task Force, which, among other duties, warned social media companies of campaigns on their networks. Republicans in Congress and elsewhere assailed that practice, claiming it amounted to censorship, although the U.S. Supreme Court upheld the right of officials to tell companies what they were seeing. Of course, the real issue with all of this is then what makes the propaganda so sophisticated and effective is the Russians are, I guess, pretty good at not only manipulating, let's say, fissures in the American body politic, but also skilled in doing so in ways that specifically benefit the Republican Party, such that even if they are made aware of the fact that it is A, false, and B, Russian propaganda, they still don't care. This helps us win seats. That was actually, again, the result of the 2016 a conversation which was taped and which became infamous for Kevin McCarthy's insistence that he believed that Putin was paying Trump. But the rest of it was we were watching it happen to them in real time. All right, we might be getting manipulated here, and it might be pro-Russia to do it, but we're going to win seats with it. So I'm not going to say or do anything about it. All right. Well, I wanted to stop with this while there was still time to discuss this other story, which Rosalind McGregor sent. And what is this story? I'm going to have to just open it up and read it along with you here. But it has to do with AI and fake stuff again, coming this time from 404 Media. How do you like this title? What is this about? This, quote, college protester isn't real. It's an AI-powered undercover bot for cops. I know things are getting a little weird here, but let's read through this one. Emmanuel Myberg and Jason Kobler produced this just yesterday for 404 Media. Let's see. And it begins with, I guess it's sort of she's forwarded me their teaser for it in a newsletter. So let's see, what is a note here from Jason and Emmanuel. They've been working on this article for months. It's the result of dozens of public records requests and a lot of reporting. We think it's really important and shows how generative AI is being integrated into police workflows. Let's see what this is about. Article, it notes here, was produced with support from Wired, who is doing a bang-up job in their coverage of everything that's going on from the tech side. American police departments near the United States-Mexico border are paying hundreds of thousands of dollars for an unproven and secretive technology, oh no, not again, that uses AI-generated online personas designed to interact with and collect intelligence on college protesters, radicalized political activists, and suspected drug and human traffickers, according to internal documents, contracts, and communications 404 Media obtained via public records requests. And just this morning, another Trump administration wacko on, I don't know, maybe CNN, maybe Fox News. I didn't get to watch the clip, but railing on and on about, crazy, the American higher institutions of higher learning. I guess this is part of it. Well, why are you trying to remove Harvard's tax-exempt status and freezing grants to Harvard and Columbia, etc.? Well, these institutions are hotbeds of anti-American sentiment. Are they? I don't think so. And in the meantime, this too. If we can't actually find the woke ideology that is that we're railing about on college campuses, we can just create it with artificial intelligence and then point at that and say, see, we told you it was happening. Well, in this case, they're just using it to entrap people, or attempting to, but I think they get spotted pretty quickly. One thing the college kids are pretty good at is spotting Steve Buscemi types showing up with the greetings fellow kids approach. Anyway, where were we with this? Massive Blue, the New York-based company that is selling police departments this technology. Oh boy. Let's see if we can untangle that name. Called its product Overwatch, which it markets as an AI-powered force multiplier for public safety that deploys lifelike virtual agents, I bet they're not, which infiltrate and engage criminal networks across various channels. And I mean, once again, I'm sure they're like, yeah, we got a realistic chatbot here. Hi, how's it going? Please exit the vehicle, sir. The vehicle with your hands on your head. Do you understand these rights as I've read them to you? You didn't read me any rights. Oh, well, not that lifelike then, is it? Okay. And so, again, marketing an AI-powered force multiplier for public safety, so it's okay, that deploys lifelike virtual agents which infiltrate and engage criminal networks across various channels. Somebody take notes on this drug deal, please, this MFing criminal enterprise. According to a presentation obtained by 404 Media, Massive Blue is offering cops these virtual personas that can be deployed across the internet with the express purpose of interacting with suspects over text messages and social media. Massive Blue lists border security, school safety, and stopping human trafficking among Overwatch's use cases. By the way, school safety, doing great. Another school shooting. Thanks a lot. The technology, which as of last summer had not led to any known arrests, but was very pricey nonetheless, demonstrates the type of social media monitoring and undercover tools private companies are pitching to police and border agents. Concerns about tools like Massive Blue have taken on new urgency, considering that the Trump administration has revoked the visas of hundreds of students, many of whom have protested against Israel's war in Gaza. We've been hearing more and more about that lately, like Frederick Douglass. But also, by the way, what did I see? Oh, yeah, right. I did see somebody mention today. Oh, we'll see if I can dig it up. The story we told you the other day about the new tactic of using social security databases to declare people dead and that they weren't really, based on anything. Apparently now they've moved on to using algorithms to do that declaration of death. Who are the people that you think, chatbot, are most likely to be fake? And will you just turn off their social security for us while you're at it? Yes, sure. We'll do that. And now they can do the same this way. Who are the people online that, given interactions with chatbots, you think are most likely to be people that I guess the American public will frown upon and not care if we eject from the United States and call terrorists? 404 Media obtained a presentation showing some of these AI characters. These include a radicalized AI protest persona, in which poses as a 36-year-old divorced woman who is lonely, has no children, is interested in baking, activism, and body positivity. I don't know if that's a great match. What? Radicalized AI protest persona. I mean, is that supposed to... I don't know what to tell you about that one. That doesn't sound like a good match. It's a better match for the next one. A honeypot AI persona. Her backstory is that she says she's a 25-year-old from Dearborn, Michigan, whose parents emigrated from Yemen and who speaks the Sanani dialect of Arabic. You know what? I have a feeling that the divorced woman was meant to be the honeypot persona and the radicalized AI persona was the Yemeni immigrant, and they got it backwards. But if they didn't, that's even funnier. The presentation also says she uses, the 25-year-old, various social media apps. She's on Telegram and Signal, and that she has U.S. and international SMS capabilities. That's usually what happens when the hot chicks talk to me. I have SMS capabilities. Do you? Okay. Other personas are a 14-year-old boy, that's the child trafficking AI persona, and an AI pimp persona, because why not? Also, college protester somehow got back in this list again. External recruiter for protests, escorts, and juveniles. So, AI entrapment is what we're talking about. Our reporting shows that cops are paying a company to help them deploy AI-powered bots across social media and the internet to talk to people they suspect are anything from violent sex criminals, which they might as well just recruit directly into the law enforcement ranks, all the way to vaguely defined protesters with the hope of generating evidence that can be used against them. Again, it is, like we said, AI entrapment, and will result in no better work than the human entrapment that they used to do. This idea of having an AI pretending to be somebody, a youth looking for pedophiles to talk online, a youth, really? Again, it's more cop speak here. But it does remind me of the stories we read years ago of the very lucrative business of giving anti-terrorism awareness talks to police departments where they were paying hundreds of thousands of dollars to traveling charlatans who would just go from department to department to say, you know how you identify terrorists? Here, and put up pictures of people wearing, identifiably Middle Eastern or Muslim garb, traditional Muslim dress, or they have names like Al-Hawari or something like that. Yeah, that's a terrorist. You can just go grab them. Just the same crap being recycled. Now with AI, essentially. So, okay, and AI entrapment bots are what they're selling. So very interesting. We can't get through the rest of the thing here because it's time for us to part once again. But some interesting examples of different departments around the country who have apparently contracted with Massive Blue. And also of interest, no arrests made with any of this. They all come with, I guess, AI generated photos as well. No word on how many fingers they have, but essentially they're pretty obvious. And just like with actual in-person infiltrators to protests and narcs around the country, they're kind of instantly obvious, but if you're looking to entrap the dumbest, least connected, and loneliest potential criminals, I guess, if you want to really wrap it in in that language, then I guess I'm sure it'll work. And so I'm looking forward to millions and perhaps billions of dollars being spent on cases that will instantly collapse in the near future. And what can I tell you? Don't get yourself involved in any of these things. All right, well, that's a very Friday kind of a story. And there are many other things that I am sure I could and should have shared with you. But we have only 2 hours, and after all, you can supplement it with another hour from Justice Putnam. The West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy comes up next right here on Netroots Radio. Oh, I didn't even get to David Brooks somehow joining, who was it the other day? Bill Crystal joining, and all of a sudden they are Antifa radicals. Yeah, David Brooks may have, bought himself another hour, I guess, by coming out in favor of essentially looking for support for a general strike in protest of the Trump administration. Great, sure, fantastic. We'll have it at Applebee's, I guess. At the salad bar is where we'll begin, and then afterwards we'll make sure that we only go to working class delis where people understand the meats.
NetrootsRadio.com. You have been listening to Kagro in the Morning with David Waldman.
All right, Justice has more for you about how Trump is throwing all of his DOJ lawyers under the bus after 2 brutal court rulings, where one ruling involved finding a probable cause of criminal contempt. Yes, that's coming. And then locally for him, Oregon State University filed a lawsuit against the Trump administration after it revoked his legal status. It's an international student. I blew it again. We'll see you on Monday.